The bite marks on human instructor Diana's sleeve were already healing, but the Kixren cub was still locked in shock freeze, pupils dilated to maximum threat assessment. "Nixel, it's okay, sweetie," Diana said, reaching down to pat the young predator's armored head. The cub flinched, then slowly, deliberately, lowered herself until her belly touched the floor. Then every other cub in the classroom did the same. 32 juvenile apex predators from 18 different species, each one bred, evolved, or engineered to be the deadliest thing on their respective homeworlds, were now pressed flat against the training room floor. Necks exposed, claws retracted, weapons systems powered down. The Vraxny twins had their crystalline forms dimmed to barely visible. The young Quelix had folded all 6 of his blade arms beneath his carapace. Even Yuxva, the notoriously aggressive thornback juvenile who challenged instructors twice her size, had her spines completely flattened in submission. Diana blinked at the sea of suddenly docile predators. Guys, we were just playing. You can get up now." None of them moved. Their eyes, compound, multi-spectrum, heat-sensing, probability calculating, all tracked her with the same fixed intensity. Not hunting focus. Something else entirely. The bio-alarm started screaming. Combat instructor Grazik burst through the reinforced door, his chitinous body armored and primed for combat, mandibles spread in battle configuration. His 6 eyes scanned the room rapidly, searching for the threat that had triggered 32 simultaneous distress signals from the cub's biomonitors. He froze when he saw them all on the ground. Then he saw Diana standing in the middle of them, looking confused and still holding the training hologram emitter she'd been using to demonstrate flanking techniques. "Instructor Diana," Grazik's translator chirped with barely controlled panic. "Step away from the cubs, slowly." "What? Why? We were just—" "Now." Diana took a step backward. Every single cub shifted position to maintain their orientation toward her. The movement was synchronized, instinctive, and absolutely wrong for species that had no evolutionary connection to each other whatsoever. Grazik's translator made a sound that didn't translate, which Diana had learned meant he was experiencing an emotion that didn't exist in human psychology. His antennae twitched rapidly as he consulted his wrist display. "All cubs are displaying code Omega Black biometrics. That's prime predator recognition response." "Prime what?" "It's a theoretical behavioral state." Grazik moved carefully around the perimeter of the room, never taking his eyes off the cubs. The instinctive recognition of a predator so far above you in the hierarchy that submission is the only rational response. It's used in evolutionary psychology discussions about ancient proto-species encountering their future predators. It shouldn't be possible for any of these species. They're apex predators. They don't have natural superiors. Diana looked down at Nixil, who was still staring at her with those huge, dilated pupils. "She just bit my sleeve during the demonstration. I thought we were playing, so I gave her a little bite back, like you do with puppies." The translator made that untranslatable sound again. "You bit a Kixren battle cub. Gently, on the neck scruff. It's a plaything." "That's a dominance display," Grazik said quietly. "One of the most aggressive territorial challenges in Kixren culture. Cubs learn at hatching never to allow another predator access to their throat. It's survival instinct deeper than conscious thought." Diana's eyes widened. "Oh no, I didn't mean—" "And you performed it so casually that she accepted it." Grazik's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Not just accepted. Look at her positioning. She's guarding you. They all are." Diana looked again at the cubs. They weren't just lying down in submission. They'd arranged themselves in a defensive perimeter with her at the center, each cub positioned to cover approaches from different angles. The formation was flawless, instinctive, and completely unplanned. "This is impossible," Grazik muttered, his claws tapping commands on his communicator. "I'm calling Director Volnix. Nobody move." "Can I at least sit down?" Diana asked. "My feet are killing me." The moment she lowered herself to a sitting position on the floor, the entire defensive formation relaxed. cubs shifted from rigid alert postures to comfortable resting positions, still oriented toward her but no longer locked in crisis mode. Several of them shuffled closer. Nixil crept forward until her head rested against Diana's knee. Grazik stared at his biomonitor display in disbelief. All stress indicators just dropped to baseline. They're comfortable. Content even. He looked up at Diana, sitting cross-legged on the floor with 32 apex predator cubs arranging themselves around her like oversized house cats. "What are you?" Diana scratched behind Nixil's ear ridges, and the cub made a rumbling sound that her species absolutely did not make outside of mating season territorial claims. "I'm a combat theory instructor who really misses her dog." "Cubs, attention formation!" Grazik's translator barked with command authority that had brought entire graduating classes to instant obedience. Not one cub moved. A few flicked ears or sensory organs in his direction acknowledged his presence, then returned their focus to Diana. Grazik tried again, activating the alpha frequency tone that bypassed conscious thought and triggered instinctive obedience in juvenile predators. The high-pitched pulse filled the room. The cub's ears flattened in annoyance. Nixil growled, actually growled, at Grazik, a senior instructor. The cub didn't even look at him, just made it clear he was being disruptive. "Okay, well, maybe we should just continue the lesson," Diana said, slowly standing up. Every cub rose with her in a synchronized wave of movement. "So, we were talking about flanking maneuvers in urban environments." She took 3 steps toward the holographic projector. 32 cubs moved with her, maintaining their protective formation. When she turned to gesture at the projection, they all shifted to keep her centered. The movement was fluid, coordinated, and made with the kind of tactical precision the Academy had been trying to teach them for months. "They're tracking you like prey tracks a predator," Grazik said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But they're not hunting. They're escorting, protecting." The door burst open again. Academy Director Volnix strode in, his reptilian bulk flanked by 6 security officers in full tactical gear. His scales were flushed dark green with concern. "Instructor Grazik, report on..." He stopped mid-sentence when he saw the formation. The cubs reacted instantly. The loose protective circle around Diana tightened into a defensive semicircle between her and the new arrivals. Claws extended, bioweapons primed. The Vraxni twins' crystalline bodies brightened to combat luminescence. Juxva's spines rose in a rattling display that made the security officers take an involuntary step back. "Stand down," Volnix commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "All cubs, assume rest positions immediately." The cubs didn't even acknowledge he'd spoken. Their focus remained locked on the security team. "Director, please don't come closer," Diana said quickly. "I think they're being protective." "Protective?" Volnix's neck frill expanded slightly. "Cubs, I am your director. You will..." Nixil moved. The young Kixran positioned herself directly between Volnix and Diana, her body language unmistakable. The director would have to go through her to reach the human. A Kixran battle cub, threatening the Academy Director, to protect a human instructor she'd met 6 weeks ago. Grazik was frantically consulting his datapad. "Director, the bioscans are showing pack bonding emergency protocol, all of them." "That's impossible. Pack bonding emergency is a life-or-death response. It only triggers during existential threats to pack cohesion." Volnix's eyes narrowed. "And it certainly doesn't trigger between species that can't interbreed or share pheromone systems. I'm aware of what it should and shouldn't do, Director." Grazik turned his datapad around to show the readings. "But look, every single cub is producing cross-species recognition markers. The Quelix are emitting Vraxni comfort signals. The Thornbacks are responding to Kixran pack spacing. They're treating each other as the same species." "That's scientifically impossible." "Yes, Director, I'm aware." Diana tried to step around the defensive formation. "Guys, it's okay. He's not..." The cubs moved with her, maintaining their protective positions. When she stopped, confused, they stopped. When she tilted her head, Several cubs mimicked the gesture. Volnix watched this with growing horror. They've imprinted on her, full pack structure imprinting. But she's not even the same genus, let alone species. She doesn't produce any of the chemical markers that trigger pack bonding. She can't possibly. He stopped, his tactical mind working through the implications. What did you do? I bit a cub back when she bit me, Diana said, her voice rising with uncertainty. It was playful, like when my nephew's puppy gets too mouthy and you gently mouth them back to teach boundaries. You performed a dominance display, Grazik said. A perfect one, apparently, Volnix added, his scales shifting to a pale, shocked yellow. You executed a flawless apex acknowledgement. You took her challenge, reciprocated with controlled aggression that demonstrated superiority, and did it with enough restraint to signal acceptance rather than rejection. He stared at Diana. That's a behavioral sequence that takes most species 3 generations of instinctive evolution to recognize and respect. I was just playing with a puppy. Cubs are not puppies. They kind of are, though. Diana looked down at Nick Sill, who was still standing guard between her and the director, but had started leaning back against Diana's legs for comfort. Look at her. She's basically a scaly puppy with more teeth. Nick Sill made that weird rumbling sound again and pushed her head into Diana's hand. Volnix's translator made a sound like choking. That's a pack alpha acceptance vocalization. She just claimed you as her pack leader, in front of witnesses. That's legally binding in Kixran society. Wait, what? And every other cub in this room just witnessed and accepted it. Grazik's antennae were vibrating so fast they blurred. They're not just protecting you. They've recognized you as their pack alpha. All of them. Across species barriers that shouldn't allow for shared pack dynamics. Diana looked around at the 32 deadly juvenile predators who were now looking at her with expressions that could only be described as devoted. So when I bit her back as a joke, you accidentally claimed pack alpha status over the entire class. Volnix finished, and they accepted. The xenobiology team arrived in under 10 minutes, led by Dr. Kilvar, whose amorphous form rippled with scientific curiosity. The team carried scanning equipment, behavioral analysis gear, and determined expressions. They made it exactly 3 steps into the room before the cubs formed a wall. Absolutely not, Kilvar said, their translation device somehow conveying exasperation through pure mathematics. We need to assess the human's biochemistry, analyze her pheromone output, and... A low collective growl rumbled through the cub formation. Not threatening, warning. They're not going to let you near her, Volnix observed from his position by the door, where he'd wisely remained. I suggest remote scanning only. Remote scanning won't tell us how she's overriding their species-specific pack bonding mechanisms. Kilvar's form shifted colors rapidly, their equivalent of frustrated hand-waving. We need samples, close-range biometric readings, neural activity comparisons. Nick Sill took one deliberate step forward. The message was clear. Turn around or find out why Kixran battle cubs had a 98% survival to adulthood rate despite being born on death worlds. Dr. Kilvar turned around. Okay, class dismissed, Diana announced, clapping her hands together. Good work on the flanking exercises today. See you all next session. None of the cubs moved. Class dismissed, she repeated, gesturing toward the door. Go on, lunchtime, cafeteria, food? The cubs looked at her with expressions of polite incomprehension, as if she'd just suggested they spontaneously combust for fun. Director, Diana's voice had gone slightly high-pitched. How do I make them leave? You can't, Volnix said flatly. Pack Alpha dismissal requires established protocols, ritual separation behaviors, and reassurance of pack continuity. You haven't established any of those. From their perspective, you're asking them to abandon their pack leader in an unknown environment surrounded by potential threats. He gestured at the xenobiology team, which, from their current assessment, is accurate. Grazik was consulting his datapad again, mandibles clicking in the rhythm that meant he was reading Academy regulations. Director, we don't have protocols for this. Section 18 covers interspecies pack dynamics, but only for species with compatible social structures. Section 21 addresses unauthorized pack bonding, but assumes it's between cubs of similar developmental stages. There's nothing in Academy Code about a human instructor accidentally claiming alpha status over a mixed species combat class. Then we're making new protocols, Volnick said. Starting with... Diana sat down on the floor. The response was immediate and universal. Every cub settled into resting position around her in a perfect pack formation. The aggressive defenders took outer positions, forming a perimeter. The younger, smaller cubs nestled closer to Diana. The mid-range cubs filled the gaps, creating overlapping fields of protection. The entire arrangement happened in less than 5 seconds without a single vocal command or gesture. That's classic alpha rest formation, Dr. Kilvar breathed, their form going still with shock. Multi-layered defensive positioning with the pack leader at the safest central point. But that formation requires species-specific spatial awareness, chemical signaling, and hierarchical confirmation rituals. They just did it instantly. Across 18 different species. That's impossible, Grazik finished. Yes, we've established that. Reality doesn't seem to care. Diana rummaged in her bag and pulled out her lunch container. Well, if we're stuck here for a bit, anyone hungry? She opened the container, revealing some kind of grain-based food item and strips of cooked protein. She broke off a piece and offered it to Nixil. The cub took it gently from Diana's fingers, her jaws, capable of crushing reinforced steel, closing with such delicate precision that she didn't even graze Diana's skin. She ate slowly, deliberately, maintaining eye contact the entire time. That's trust-feeding behavior, Dr. Kilvar said quietly. Food taken directly from the alpha's hand. That's reserved for the highest levels of pack hierarchy. Cubs don't do that with anyone except their birth parents, and only in the first weeks of life. Diana was already offering pieces to other cubs. Each one approached, took the offering with impossible gentleness, and returned to their position. The Vraxny twins, whose species didn't even eat physical matter, somehow absorbed the offering and dimmed their forms in what their species considered grateful acknowledgement. She's feeding them, Volnick said, his voice distant. A human is hand-feeding 32 apex predator cubs, and they're accepting it as pack hierarchy reinforcement. Director, Grazik said carefully, I don't think she accidentally claimed pack alpha status. No, I think she executed a perfect pack-claiming ritual. Multi-species, universal predator recognition patterns. His antennae stilled, the insectoid equivalent of stunned realization. Her playful bite-back wasn't one dominance display. It was all of them. Kixran throat-taking, Vraxny strength demonstration, Quelix respect challenge, Thornback spine-breaking capability. She did them all simultaneously because human play fighting contains elements that every predator species recognizes. Volnick's scales flushed to deep purple. You're saying human play behavior is accidentally a universal pack-bonding language? I'm saying she performed the single most perfect apex acknowledgement display in recorded history, and she thought she was being cute with a puppy. Diana was scratching behind Nixil's ear ridges again, making the battle cub's eyes go half-closed in contentment. She looked up at the stunned adults. So, how long until I can leave? I have another class in an hour. Instructor Diana, Volnick said slowly, I don't think you understand. These cubs have imprinted on you as their primary pack authority. They won't leave your side without proper separation protocols. They won't accept orders from other instructors. They've essentially claimed you as their permanent alpha. Diana blinked. But I'm just a combat theory teacher. I don't know anything about raising alien cubs. Then you're going to learn, Volnick said. Because right now, you're the only person in this academy that 32 of our most dangerous juveniles will listen to. And given the tactical precision they just displayed in that defensive formation, better than anything we've seen from them in months of training, I'm not sure we should interfere even if we could. Nixil rumbled contentedly and pressed closer to Diana's side. I really miss my dog, Diana muttered. Look, on Earth, that's just how you play with puppies and kittens, Diana said, gently wrestling with Nick Sill, who had rolled onto her back in a display of trust that made Grazik's translator emit a sound like static. You do the gentle bite thing, you play fight, you pretend to be aggressive, but you're really just bonding. It's affection. Dr. Shilvar's form went completely transparent, which their species only did during moments of existential philosophical crisis. You casually perform apex dominance displays as affection. It's not dominance, it's play, Diana demonstrated, taking Nick Sill's armored snout in both hands and giving it a gentle shake. The cub's eyes went half-closed in bliss. See? You show them you're strong enough to be trusted, gentle enough to be safe, and consistent enough to be reliable. Then they know they can relax around you. That's a trust demonstration, Volnik said quietly. Showing controlled strength. That's fundamental to pack hierarchy establishment in... Wait. His scales cycled through 6 colors in rapid succession. That's fundamental to pack hierarchy in every predator species. Diana moved to Juxva, the aggressive thornback who'd challenged instructors twice. She held out her hand, waited for the cub to sniff it, then gently pushed against Juxva's shoulder. The cub pushed back, testing. Diana pushed harder, just enough to demonstrate she could hold her ground. Juxva's spines lowered, and she settled into a relaxed posture. Strength testing, Grazik breathed. She just did a thornback dominance negotiation perfectly, but thornbacks take months to teach. I'm just roughhousing, Diana said, moving to the Vraxny twins. She couldn't physically touch them, so instead she made herself bigger, spreading her arms wide, then smaller, crouching down. The twins brightened and dimmed in response, matching her rhythm. You make yourself big to show confidence, small to show you're not a threat, back and forth. It's playing. That's the Vraxny size challenge ritual, Dr. Kilvar said, their form solidifying slightly. The entire basis of their social hierarchy. She's doing it like it's a children's game. It is a children's game, Diana laughed, and the sound made several cubs' ears perk up. This is how human kids play with pets, with each other even. We're social predators, I guess. We evolved to bond with other predators through play. The room went silent, except for the contented sounds of the cubs. Universal predator psychology, Volnik said finally. Humans evolved pack-bonding behaviors that work on universal predator psychology. Not because they're trying to dominate, but because that's how they express affection. Every species here recognizes something different in her. Behavior, Grazik added, his mandibles clicking rapidly as he processed. The Kiksran see throat trust displays. The Thornbacks see strength negotiation. The Vraxny see size challenge acceptance. The Quelix see blade dance respect. He looked at Diana, who was now playing a game that looked like tag with a group of cubs. She's performing all of our pack-claiming rituals simultaneously because human play contains elements of all of them. It's not performance, Dr. Kilvar corrected. It's instinct. She's not trying to claim pack alpha status. She's just being affectionate the way humans are affectionate, which happens to be a perfect multi-species dominance display, trust offering, strength demonstration, and pack acceptance ritual all at once. How? Volnik's voice was barely a whisper. How did one species accidentally evolve the perfect predator-pack bonding language? Because they bonded with everything, Grazik said, pulling up files on his datapad. Look at Earth's history. Humans domesticated wolves, cats, birds, reptiles. They kept prey species as companions. They befriended apex predators. They have documented cases of wild predators seeking them out for help, for play, for companionship. He looked up. They didn't evolve to bond with one species. They evolved to bond with all of them. Diana had gathered the cubs into a circle and was teaching them what appeared to be a coordination exercise, except she was making it into a game. Cubs were laughing. Actually laughing, making sounds of joy that their species supposedly didn't produce in juvenile stages. They were working together across species lines, communicating, cooperating, all while playing what was essentially an elaborate version of catch. "They're learning," Volnix observed. "Look at their formation discipline, their coordination, their cross-species communication." He checked his own datapad. "We've been trying to teach them those skills for 3 months. She's getting better results in 20 minutes of playtime." "Because she's not teaching," Dr. Kilvar said. "She's bonding. And through bonding, they want to please her, to meet her standards, to be worthy of the pack." Their form rippled with something like awe. "She's not a human instructor who accidentally became a pack alpha. She's a pack alpha who happens to be human, and that might be the most terrifying thing I've learned in my entire scientific career." "Terrifying?" Diana called out, having overheard. "I'm just playing with them?" "Exactly," Volnix said. "You're casually doing what every predator species in the galaxy considers the highest form of social bonding. You think it's playing. They think you're systematically reinforcing pack hierarchy through perfectly executed dominance-maintenance behaviors." He watched as Nixil brought Diana a training dummy, and Diana praised her effusively while all the other cubs watched and learned. "You're teaching them discipline, cooperation, and tactical thinking, and you're doing it by treating them like beloved pets." "They kind of are beloved pets, though," Diana said, scratching 3 cubs simultaneously. "Look at these faces. They're adorable." "Those adorable faces belong to apex predators that will grow up to be some of the deadliest beings in the galaxy," Grazik pointed out. "Yes, and deadly doesn't mean they don't need affection and proper socialization." Diana looked at the 3 adults like they were being ridiculous. "Every social species needs pack bonding. Every predator needs to learn controlled aggression and appropriate challenge responses. That's just basic behavioral psychology." "Human basic behavioral psychology," Dr. Kilvar said, "which apparently applies to the entire galaxy." The Academy's Administrative Council took 6 hours to create the new position and approximately 6 seconds to fill it. "Human Pack Dynamics Coordinator," Diana read from her updated contract. "With full authority over juvenile behavioral development and cross-species socialization protocols." She looked up at Director Volnix. "You know I still want to teach combat theory, right?" "You'll teach combat theory," Volnix assured her. "Your class is now the most disciplined in Academy history. Their test scores improved by 40% in the last 2 weeks. Do whatever you're doing." What Diana was doing, according to the other instructors who now attended her sessions as observers, was casual dominance maintenance through affectionate reinforcement, which translated to, she treated the cubs like beloved pets who happened to be learning military tactics. Instructor Grazik had filled 3 datapads with notes. Notice how she redirects aggressive behavior with play rather than punishment. The cubs associate her authority with positive experiences, so they seek to maintain her approval. "I'm just keeping them engaged," Diana said, tossing a training dummy for Nixil to retrieve. The young Chixran caught it mid-air, executed a perfect tactical roll, and brought it back for another throw. Bored cubs are destructive cubs. Under Diana's guidance, Nixil had become the unofficial class leader. When Diana gave instructions, Nixil demonstrated first, and the other cubs followed her example. The hierarchy was clear, natural, and more effective than anything the Academy had artificially imposed. The cubs were now performing complex multi-species coordination exercises that previous classes had taken a full year to master. Vraxini twins providing light support while Thornbacks held defensive positions, and Kixaran units executed flanking maneuvers, all species working together as a unified pack. Diana sat on the observation platform, munching on a granola bar while the cubs ran through formation drills below. When Juxva executed a particularly difficult maneuver perfectly, Diana tossed down a treat. The Thornback caught it, her spines rattling with pride. In his office, Director Volnix was composing his report to the Galactic Academy Board. Initial findings suggest humans are accidentally optimal for juvenile predator education. Their instinctive pack bonding behaviors trigger positive hierarchical responses across all tested species. Recommend immediate implementation of human behavioral protocols in similar institutions. He paused, then added, Also recommend psychological counseling for all xenobiology staff who have to accept that their entire field just got rewritten by a human who thinks she's just playing with puppies. On the training floor, Diana was planning next week's activities. So, I'm thinking we do some fetch exercises. That's good for recall training and prey drive management. Maybe some tug-of-war for strength assessment and controlled aggression. Oh, and group hunting simulations, but we make them fun. Like capture the flag, but tactical. You're describing advanced military training exercises as children's games, Grazik observed. They're cubs, Diana said simply. Cubs learn through play. That's universal, right? Apparently, Grazik admitted, watching as the cubs below executed a flawless pincer movement while clearly having the time of their lives. Nixil bounded up to the observation platform and playfully tugged on Diana's sleeve, her eyes bright with mischief. Diana turned, made eye contact, and let out a low, playful growl. The entire class erupted into joyful chaos, cubs play-fighting and roughhousing under Diana's watchful eye, their movements unconsciously maintaining tactical formation even in play. Discipline through affection, structure through trust. Military precision through games of tag. Dr. Silvar, observing from the doorway, let their forms cycle through every color in their spectrum. We've been teaching predators wrong for 10,000 years. Yep, Volnik said, appearing beside them. And it took a human who misses her dog to show us how. Below, Diana laughed as Nixil pinned a thornback cub in a move that was simultaneously perfect play behavior and textbook combat technique. The human grabbed another granola bar, tossed treats to cubs who'd executed good form, and settled in to watch her pack play. Just another day at the academy. Just another human, accidentally revolutionizing galactic civilization by being affectionate. The cubs wouldn't have it any other way.